Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Kyle Chrisley denied access to dad, begs for visitation with Chloe. Chrisley knows best alum. Todd Chrisley won't accept Lindsay or Kyle Chrisley since his imprisonment, and maybe he blames them for his predicament. After all, there's been plenty of talk about how both of them may have informed the authorities about his business dealings. It's a big problem for Kyle, who wants to be able to see his birth daughter, Chloe Chrisley, who is in the custody of his half-sister, Savannah. Kyle Chrisley wants to have visitation with Chloe Chrisley. Angela Johnson was the birth mom of Chloe Chrisley, but Kyle's ex-girlfriend lost out in her efforts to see her daughter. That is because Todd and Julie legally adopted the little girl, so even if she wanted to take care of the kid with Todd and Julie behind bars, she couldn't. Instead, they handed custody to Savannah for both Grayson and Chloe, despite Kyle apparently being over his drug addiction problems. Kyle Chrisley seems upset at the moment because he can't visit his dad in prison, where he serves time for tax and fraud-related offenses. Apparently, he's tried to see him, but he's not on the list of people who can visit the prison anymore. He did see him twice though. He doesn't know why, but fans suspect that his dad put him on the list of undesirable visitors because of the way the trial went. Whatever the reason, it also means that Kyle can't get to speak to his dad about getting visitation with Chloe. Todd's son opens up about his daughter. At one stage, Todd Chrisley and his son had reunited and all seemed forgiven. However, that seems to have changed now. According to a new report by In Touch Weekly, the Chrisley knows best patriarch wants nothing to do with him. Like Lindsay, he wasn't welcome at the oral argument's appeal. Kyle explained more about Chloe, saying, Kyle Chrisley admitted that he didn't have a stellar past, but he feels very sad because he doesn't think that the estrangement needs to be the way it is. As he raises two other kids without any problems, he feels that the whole situation is sad. Our whole family is really just torn apart, and I hate that it's become this way. Kyle Chrisley sat in his small, sparsely decorated apartment, staring at the crumpled letter on the coffee table. It was the latest in a string of legal notices and updates from his family's attorneys, each one colder than the last. This one, however, carried an extra sting. It explicitly denied him visitation rights with his daughter Chloe, who was under the guardianship of his father, Todd Chrisley, and his stepmother, Julie, before their recent legal troubles sent shockwaves through the family. The silence of the room was oppressive, broken only by the faint hum of the refrigerator. Kyle ran a hand through his disheveled hair, a mix of frustration and heartache etched across his face. He had spent years battling his own demons, from addiction to estrangement from his family, but nothing had prepared him for the relentless wall he faced now. A wall keeping him from Chloe, the one bright light he had left. How did it come to this? Kyle muttered to himself. He had spent weeks drafting letters to his father, pouring his heart out and pleading for a chance to mend their fractured relationship. But the replies, when they came, were curt and dismissive. Todd's focus had shifted entirely to his own legal woes, and there was no room for Kyle in that equation. For years, Kyle had been painted as the black sheep of the Chrisley clan, a man struggling to find his footing while his family's life played out on national television like a perfectly scripted drama. His mistakes were public, his redemption private, and now, his attempts at reconnecting seemed futile. But Kyle wasn't one to give up easily, not anymore. A father's plea. Todd Chrisley was no stranger to difficult conversations, but the mere mention of Kyle's name sent a pang of guilt through his chest. Sitting in the dimly lit visitor's room of the federal penitentiary, he stared at the untouched cup of coffee in front of him. His attorney had delivered Kyle's latest letter earlier that morning, and Todd had read it 3 times, each pass heavier than the last. He's trying, Todd, Julie had said during their last phone call. You can't ignore that. Trying doesn't erase the past, Todd had replied, though the words felt hollow even as he said them. In the letter, Kyle had written about his ongoing sobriety, his efforts to rebuild his life, and his longing to be a father to Chloe. The part that struck Todd the most was Kyle's admission of regret for the pain he had caused. It wasn't the first time Kyle had apologized, but something about this letter felt different, raw, unpolished, and heartbreakingly sincere. Maybe I owe him this, Todd thought, though the road to forgiveness was paved with thorns. Chloe's voice. Chloe, now a teenager, was caught in the crossfire of a family torn apart. Living with her grandmother, Nanny Faye, while Todd and Julie served their sentences, she had grown up faster than anyone had anticipated. Despite her bubbly exterior, Chloe felt the weight of her family's drama pressing down on her. She missed the days when the Chrisley home was a whirlwind of laughter and chaos. Those days felt like a distant dream now, replaced by hushed conversations and guarded expressions. "Do you ever think about Dad?" Chloe asked Nanny Faye one evening, her voice tentative. Faye looked up from her crossword puzzle, her sharp eyes softening. "Everyday sugar. He loves you, you know. Even if he doesn't show it the way you want. Do you think he'll let me see Kyle?" Chloe's question hung in the air like a fragile thread. Faye sighed. "That's a tricky one. Your grandpa has his reasons, but Kyle's still your daddy. Sometimes grown-ups make things harder than they need to be." Chloe nodded, though her heart ached for clarity. She wanted to know Kyle, not the man in the stories whispered behind closed doors, but the father he was trying to become. Kyle's breaking point. Determined to be heard, Kyle took his fight to social media. In a heartfelt video, he addressed his followers and his family. "I'm not perfect," Kyle began, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. "I've made mistakes and I've paid for them. But Chloe is my daughter, and I want to be part of her life. She deserves to know her father, not just the version of me everyone talks about." The video quickly went viral, sparking a flurry of opinions. Support poured in from fans who admired Kyle's vulnerability, while critics questioned his motives. But Kyle wasn't seeking public approval. He was trying to reach Todd, hoping his father would see his sincerity. A family meeting. Nanny Faye decided it was time for a family meeting. She invited Savannah, Chase, and Grayson to her house, hoping to broker some semblance of peace. "We need to talk about Kyle," Faye announced, her tone leaving no room for argument. Savannah crossed her arms, skepticism etched on her face. "What's there to talk about? He's made his choices. And he's trying to make better ones now," Faye countered. "We all deserve second chances, don't we?" Chase shifted uncomfortably. "It's not just about Kyle, it's about Chloe. What's best for her?" "What's best for her is having a relationship with her daddy," Faye said firmly. "She's old enough to decide for herself." The room fell silent, each Chrisley sibling grappling with their own feelings. Todd's decision. In the solitude of his cell, Todd replayed Kyle's video in his mind. He thought about his own failings as a father and a legacy he was leaving behind. "I've been so focused on protecting Chloe," Todd mused, "that I forgot what she really needs. A family, not a fortress." The next day, Todd penned a letter to Kyle. It wasn't a letter of forgiveness, but it was a start, a chance for dialogue, a step toward rebuilding.